Now, I've seen a lot of sites mock Heston Kjerstad to the Rockies, and I very much disagree with this. I'm not saying he's a bad player, absolutely not. Like, he deserves to be among the top talent and prospect lists, but he's more so like a top 20 player than a top 10 player to me. Now, this recording I'm making is mostly unscripted, but I do have some points in front of me to go over, so I'm not making a fool of myself. But anyways, Kierstad's like his big draw is his power. He's the second best power prospect in the draft, and he has that additional value being a lefty. But as much as adding someone who has lots of pop into the system would help, his other tools aren't necessarily like number 9 pick worthy in my opinion, especially compared to who else could be drafted. Now, I do get that the Rockies have a lack of outfielders in their system, but I would much rather have them draft Garrett Mitchell instead if they went down that path. Now, like Kjerstad is not he's not necessarily slow, but he does take a bit to get going, and he's just for sure not going to be a center fielder. He works in the corners, most notably right field. I think that's where they put him in Arkansas, and he does have a great arm. And he's not like Nelson Cruz or anything. He's not going to botch everything up in right field. But if we're going down the outfield route, I would much rather draft a center fielder because good ones are often hard to come by. And for example, Garrett Mitchell, who I mentioned earlier, has fantastic speed, the ability to work in center, and basically has the same strong arm as Kjerstad. But of course, people that are mocking Kjerstad to the Rockies are mainly doing it because of his offense. And I honestly think that it's because, as much as he's got good numbers, people are just looking at his junior stat line, which was 448, 513, and 791, which is still fantastic. Sorry, no, that's not still, just absolutely fantastic. But we don't really know if he was going to keep that up because well, nobody's going to keep up that 400 average, of course, but he put this stat line in 16 games before the season shut down. For comparisons, his other seasons had him hit at the 300s, which is still great. Like, actually, yeah, that is still great. But he did that in the games reaching the 60s. It's not like he was going to be a 400 like generational average hitter for his junior year because we really never knew. So, just for fairness sake, let's ignore the junior season. And we take a look at his rate stats, and it's not really something I'm too thrilled about. His sophomore year, he struck out at a 22% rate, but that's just not really great at all. Though he's a power hitter, so you kind of expect to have a high strikeout rate as he like goes for pop. So let's just take a look at his walk rate because usually if you strike out at a high rate, if the walk rate is good, then I don't really mind, like Joey Gallo, for example. But if you look at his walk rate, he walked at a 7% rate, which isn't horrible, but it's still below average, so it's not like he's redeeming his strikeouts with his walks. So it doesn't basically this doesn't mean that he's not necessarily improving, but in the shortened junior year, his marks for these rates were basically just average, but he's not really like if an average rate and like his tools in right field where he's not really that fast and he can't play center, right? I don't really see him as a good fit for the Rockies. Now, I either have a video coming out or maybe it's already come out if you're watching this later, but I talked Garrett Mitchell as the outfield option, who I briefly mentioned earlier in this video too. Now, I talked about his speed and defense, but comparing him offensively to Kierstad, and he's not really worse. He hits for a not significantly, he has slightly better average, walks at the same rate, and strikes out at a much lesser rate. He doesn't have the power of Kierstad, most certainly not, but that's something that can be fixed as his strength, he has low home run numbers not because of his strength. He's definitely a strong guy, but his swing is just more low profile and if he just lifted up his swing a little bit, which the Rockies could certainly help with this stage in his development, then he'd have to maybe not the same, but similar home run numbers. And he's also a left-handed hitter, so Kjerstad doesn't even really have that advantage over him. Sorry if this field, well, this definitely was. Sorry if this was unprofessional, but that's why it's unlisted. But if you sat through my rant, thank you.